Today I'm going to show you guys how I lit this sunset interior kitchen scene using all artificial lighting. Through this process, I'm going to break down the gear I used, placement of the lights, and the thought process behind it, so you can use this knowledge to light your own sunset interior scene. So let's get started. What's up guys, my name is Alex Arfati and this is a channel that talks all about documentary filmmaking. So if you're into that sort of thing, hit that subscribe button. But today I wanted to break down how I achieved this really natural interior sunset look for these cooking shots. To me, I always think that the first step to lighting is to go into a situation with a plan, and most importantly, motivation to light the scene. So for this project, the majority of the show was shot during golden hour. I wanted to keep the color palette and the vibe of the cooking scenes consistent to the rest of the show. So our first goal was to be able to achieve that sunset interior look, but also control the lighting so it wouldn't change throughout the day. Our first challenge was to get a light to mimic what the sunlight would do during sunset or golden hour and how the light would spill into the kitchen. So what we did was we took an Aputure 300D and we placed it right outside the kitchen window. So there's two things that I wanted that light to achieve. I wanted it to mimic the natural sunlight that you would get during sunset, and I wanted it to give this nice golden texture throughout the back wall of the kitchen and lightly kind of just touch the right side of our subject. My first pro tip would be to make sure that you have reference photos so you can keep yourself focused as you're trying to light a scene. These right here are some of the references that I was using, and what I was really trying to pay attention to was how the light would kind of texture the walls and spill into the rest of the environment, and how to really make it look as natural as possible. But one thing that's very important to remember is that every location is a little bit different, so you have to be flexible and work with the strengths and weaknesses of the environment that you're filming in. Now, to try to achieve that sunset color and that look, we used a couple of Roscoe tungsten gels to dial in exactly the warmth we were looking for. And these gels really are awesome. You can get them super cheap at Amazon and they come with a ton of different colors. And don't worry, because I'll drop that link for the Roscoe gels down below. Now, taking a look at this scene, it's obviously too dark, but the tricky part is adding light without losing that really nice sunset texture and vibe that we have going on right now in this frame. So what we did was we added this soft key light to our subject, and to do this we used an Aputure 120D and we shot it through 2 layers of diffusion. Now, the reason why we use this big scrim and not a softbox is because the bigger the light source, the softer the light is going to be. And it was really important to us to preserve all of those really nice shadows and depth in the background, and having that nice neutral light come in and hit our subject's face. Now, overall, taking a look at the scene with just these 2 lights, it's still a little too dark. So to fix this, we added an Aputure lantern softbox. And what I really like about the lantern is that it adds such a nice soft light to the entire area, just filling in some of those harsh shadows. And most importantly, it really didn't take anything away from that sunset look that we were getting from the nice texture in the background and the nice warm light that was coming in from the window and hitting our subject on the right side of her face. Now, taking a look at the 3 lights that we have, which is the 300D outside, the key light, and the lantern achieving some of that fill, I think it's looking pretty good, but I still didn't feel like the scene was complete, because if you notice, the back right corner of the frame was still a little dark, and I wanted to add a hair light to our subject just to get a little bit more separation from the background and still preserve some of that warmth that we were trying to achieve with that sunlight. So what I did was I added a Nanlite Pavo tube and I set it to about 2700 Kelvin. Now, because we added a couple Aputure 120Ds at 5500 Kelvin, I knew I wanted to preserve that warmth sunset look, but also to add that warm hair light to our subject to give her a little bit more separation from the neutral lights that were hitting her. Now, the last light that we added was a Nanlite Pavo tube, and we used it kind of like a practical cabinet light that was really only seen in our B cam. But adding this light solved 2 problems. Number one, it helped the exposure in our B cam because that back left corner was looking a little bit too dark, and it also added a bit of flair to the shot that I was really looking for. And whenever I have the ability to put some kind of practical light in the background, I always feel like it gives it that little extra pop. And lately, I've really been loving the idea of using more and more practical lights in my shots. Now, the last tip that I have for you guys is when you think about lighting, you should think about the style you're trying to go for, but even more importantly, what problem does adding or subtracting the light solve? And you should always think about solving the basics first. Number one is that you have to light and expose properly. That's first. And then obviously try to achieve the stylistic look that you're going for, but always remember that every environment is different, and don't beat yourself up if it doesn't look exactly like your reference photos. You know, make it your own thing, because you got to work with the strengths and weaknesses of your situation and of your environment, especially when you're doing documentary filmmaking. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want more tips on documentary filmmaking, please do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. Deuces.